think we are live. It says I am being live streamed. We're trying, as always, a different setup. Let's just double check in the group. Can I see myself? Sometimes it doesn't happen right away, but happy Tuesday, besties and bosses. How you all doing? How's everyone's week going? There we go. All right, this is working. Before we dive into today's topic, because today I want to chat a little bit about our topic is stop doing this to book more clients who would love to pay you. And if you got the email, we're chatting a little bit about pedestalling clients. And I want to share 3 ways that can really sabotage bringing in and booking clients that you want to work with, how that can really mess with understanding your work, a mindset shift you can make here. And then we're also just going to talk practically a little bit why this makes sense strategically, because I think sometimes this can seem only like a mindset thing, but it's actually quite a strategic piece of your business as well. Before we, to see a couple people saying hi. Before we dive into today's topic, I do want to take a quick moment. I put an email in this group and I think it kind of died in the abyss of the feed. I do want to take a quick moment just to pause and just acknowledge that our Ukraine was invaded, that many people are feeling a lot through that. I think a lot of people with COVID and 2 years in COVID and all sorts of things in our world, as well as personal things going on, are experiencing so much collectively. I know for me personally, last week was a very heavy week, along with feeling and processing, trying to understand my personal responsibility and how to understand what to do when the world is in that place. But also just we had some losses that aren't mine to share behind the scenes, and some things that I was digesting. I think so often we forget to acknowledge those things in business. And in the email and the post I shared, talked a bit about, making space for that, but also acknowledging the bothness of situations like that, where we can have heaviness we are processing. And I absolutely encourage everyone to process and get the support they need in the way they want to. And that it's also okay to continue to market and sell and run your business, and both can be true at the same time. I know I've had clients asking me, is it still okay to market right now? Is it still okay to sell right now? I obviously cannot say for anyone what is right for you, what is right for your business, what feels even right for you on a personal level, but I can share from my perspective, and maybe I'll pin that email just so you can have that context there if that's helpful to see. The perspective I'm taking is I really want to be conscious and aware, make sure I'm doing my work to support myself, to show up clean for you, to show up clean for my clients, to also make sure I'm processing the things I need to as a human, and also seeing that I'm a business owner running a business who wants to be of service, and that I'm going to continue to show up and market and sell for the time being. So just allowing for both. So I do want to take a moment just to acknowledge that I know for many of you, this is something it's going on in our world, and it's affecting everyone in different levels. Everyone has a very different life experience and background. And if anyone wants to leave a comment, or if anyone wants to share in the group, please feel free to use that space for that. And just to answer that question, I know so many of my clients have had just around, is it okay to still market and sell? So I will also link to, see if we can find that post that kind of died in the group and link to that. So I wanted to acknowledge that and not just brush that under the rug. It feels weird otherwise to jump right into talking about sales and talking about strategy and talking about mindset and talking about pedestaling. But so when you see both can be true in our world. Okay, so let's go from that and now pivot. And this will be a good example of how both we can have that conversation, and I want to be available for that conversation. And we're going to talk about our scheduled conversation here as well today. So what I wanted to talk about, this is something I have client conversations around this so often, and something I've really seen and experienced both in my business and really when I was in my acting days as well. And that's seeing how easy it is for clients of mine to get really tripped up and sabotage their marketing and their sales process because they are putting their potential clients, their ideal clients, up on a pedestal and thinking they are kind of like way up here where they're way down here. We're going to talk about 3 ways that this can really sabotage your business aside from the obvious reasons, as well as some of the mindset shifts you can make there, and really why this is so strategically important to shift. And this is something I also have seen. I saw this, when I was in the acting world, so many jobs I was on, most of the people I worked with were technically more successful, bigger names, making far more money and income than I was. And so I saw how important it was to be able to navigate this, to be able to book work and to be able to show up on set and continue to keep work. And I see this in my business now, something I always remind clients, and that I'll remind you, so because of my business model, because I run a one-on-one model and the way I am choosing to scale my business, so many of my clients make more money than me, or are, if we're using money as a metric for success, are monetarily more successful than me. And so I know clients will often ask me about, how can that be possible? Or how can you work with someone? How can you support someone who makes more money than you? Isn't that weird? And so that's part of the conversation we're going to have here today. I think it could be weird if your either mindset is allowing that to be, or if it doesn't make sense in terms of fit for work. But we're going to talk about those times where it really doesn't need to be weird, and how you can really not shift past this so this doesn't become a stumbling block for you. So if you're watching now, or if you're watching on the replay, just always feel free. And I'm just checking because I am doing this on Zoom today, because I think the lighting hopefully will be a little better because it's a little dark. I'm just going to move that window over so I can see the Facebook comments here. So if you do have any questions, please feel free to throw them at me. Also, I'm just realizing the Zoom thing here in the group, y'all will have to let me know if this is actually working. Maybe it's a little skippy, so maybe next week we won't do it this way. I'm always trying to get the light right this time of year with winter, because it gets dark so early and we're not quite yet into spring yet, trying to figure out the right light piece there. But for you watching now on the replay, would love to know if you've ever found yourself in that position where maybe you feel like, okay, I have to wait to work with the type of client I want who's really a great fit until I have another degree, or until I make more money, or until I am fully booked, or until I have a certain level of success. Or if maybe you're scared. I think this is one of the really interesting things I find so often. What happens for my clients is they do this funny dance where they're wanting to work with, and they think a certain type of ideal client avatar is the right fit for their offer, for their work. But because they are pedestaling, and by pedestaling, I mean putting up on a pedestal, it's a word I made up there, but putting up on a pedestal their ideal client, they're sort of deciding, well, until X, Y, and Z, or whatever that reason is, until essentially they're saying, until I'm enough, and I think I'm enough in some way, I'm not going to work with that person. I'm going to work with and have a different ideal client. And this is the first reason I want to unpack and see how really unintentionally this can sabotage your business and really actually make it harder to sell. I think so often when you're in a place where you put someone up on a pedestal, this comes from not feeling good enough, or not feeling worthy, or not feeling like you have enough success, or maybe being bought into the story that you, I don't know, need to be something different in order to work with the person who's a right fit for your work. And what we can see here is, if you do that, if you put someone up on a pedestal and say, I can't work with this person yet, instead I'm going to work with a different ideal client avatar. I don't know why that phrase is always so funny to say. What happens is you actually shift your entire business focus. This can shift your offer. This can shift your pricing, your business model. This will definitely shift your marketing, your messaging, your sales process. And we can see how that can be a huge sabotage when what is true for you might be this person that you're putting up on a pedestal is absolutely the best right fit for your offer and for your work. Obviously, if they're not a fit for your offer and you're just like randomly picking someone because you're creating a story that, someone who makes more money is going to be easier to sell to, that's not what we're talking about here. That's a whole nother story and mindset situation that, by the way, just because someone makes more money does not mean that they are the right fit for your offer. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about someone who is really a right fit for what you have to do, that you're putting up onto a pedestal because maybe they make more money, or they are what you're considering more successful, or you're thinking because this is who you really want to work with and you're so excited to work with them that you don't have enough degrees, accolades, fill in the blank there. I find for my clients who work in the luxury space or high-end, who have a high-end offer of any kind, this can often be something that comes up. And what's really interesting is what we can see here in terms of how this can really sabotage your business is, instead of looking for how you can connect with your ideal client, your person, the person who's the best fit for your offer, this creates a story and narrative that they are on a pedestal. They are something you have to kind of work up to. And this has you create connection points and marketing geared towards someone else, someone who you think, whatever that might look like, is actually like, I don't even love thinking of it like down on a different level, but just like who is going to be easier for you to book. But that's not at all why we build businesses or what we make offers around, right? We don't make offers because this might be something someone could buy or because someone has the money and can afford this. We create offers in business because you have an offer that can support someone and either solve their problem or help them get a result they want. So can we see here how we're going to get to the mindset piece, but even if we just take out the mindset component when we're playing this game, which comes from a mindset place, but how this really can skew your strategy. And often I'll have conversations with clients and they're wondering why there's a disconnect and why they're not booking in the clients that go on, why they're having a hard time in their sales process, because they're technically doing their strategy correctly. They're showing up, they're marketing, they're selling, they're putting content in all the places, they're checking things off the checklist and doing everything strategically correct, except for they're not speaking to the person who really is the right fit for their offer because they're essentially scared of that person. They've put them up on a pedestal. So hopefully that makes sense. Y'all are very quiet today. So let me know in the comments, or if you're watching the replay, if you have a question mark about that. But I would say the first thing here is just starting to see how it's really fascinating how we often think mindset and strategy are two separate things, but how really interlocked they are. And how when we put someone up onto a pedestal and we think we are lower than, not good enough, need more degrees, need more social proof, need to be further along in business, need to be making more money, whatever that might be, insert whatever your story is for the thing you think you need more of to be able to serve this person who's a good fit for your offer. That is a mindset piece. But we can see here how that mindset and that story you're telling yourself directly then affects not just even how you're showing up on a sales conversation, or like if you're pulling back or leaning back, or if you're showing up really confidently, but it can literally affect your strategy in terms of what direction you're pointing yourself in, who you're speaking to, even how you'll identify who your audience is, or who your ideal client is, or who your offer is for. So that's the first piece. Oh, this keeps freezing. I hope it's not freezing on your end. I'm making a mental note here that we're not, I think, going to try doing this on Zoom again next week, but I think this is still okay. I'm going to put my little video up here so I can see. I'm frozen in the Facebook group. I'm just going to see if I can refresh, and hopefully y'all are not missing me. Bear with me because I got more for you on this one. This is actually a topic that I think is very important because it hits on so many pieces, and we can see here, it says I'm still moving, but now the Facebook group is being funky. So maybe this is on the Facebook end. I'm going to keep talking, and I'm going to just hope that this is working. Nope. Okay. I'm moving again. Very exciting. But I think we can see how not only is this touching on the mindset and strategy piece and how interlocked those are, but we can see then my coaching framework, which is clarity, mindset, strategy, and action. This is why I walk clients through this. This is why I'm always looking at these components in business. It's literally what I use myself and what's supported me, my business growth and success. But we can see how when we're looking at this situation here, it also affects your clarity of who you serve, your clarity of what to focus on, your clarity of even maybe what your offer is or what your price point is. And then all of this combined absolutely affects your action. And not just if you are taking action or not taking action, or if you're taking consistent action or not, but what kind of action you're specifically taking. And I think action's a really interesting one that can also include our energy. And we can see how these three pieces here, we're talking about one topic, but how all of this can then affect the action that precedes all of your results. So it's such an interesting, I think, thing to notice and place that unintentionally, because our brain is so designed to tell stories, and it just tells narratives that we believe are true all day long, how easy it is to not be aware that you are putting the person or type of person who is the best fit for your offer up on a pedestal. And because of that, you're essentially saying they are out of reach, they are out of touch, and choosing someone who seems in reach, in touch, and unintentionally creating a strategy based on your mindset and your clarity that is completely misaligned, and how important it really and truly is to get clear on who's actually the right fit for your offer, for your work, for your zone of genius. Okay. let me just pull up here. So and I think just seeing them with that, the other piece I want to speak to, there's a seeing how that can even affect your messaging, right? If you've created this story that you need way more social proof, way more experience, way more money, whatever the thing is to finally be good enough to work with the type of person who you have put up onto a pedestal who's actually a great fit for your offer. Yeah, we're not just talking about like picking random people where you're like, I want to work with that person because I think they're incredible or I think they're famous and putting them up on a pedestal. We're talking about people who you know are a great fit for your offer, but you're telling yourself you're not good enough yet and putting them up on that pedestal. We can see how this starts to put you into approving energy and really affect messaging in your marketing either way. So if you choose that, okay, they're up on a pedestal and you want to run at and work with that person and kind of work through your stuff, if you continue to keep someone up on a pedestal, and we'll talk about this more, the opposite, the contrary action to this is not knocking someone off a pedestal and knocking them down. But if you're coming from a place where you have put your ideal client up onto a pedestal where they're in your mind, you're telling yourself they're better than you for insert whatever reason, and you're choosing to market to this person, this can make it very easy to get into approving energy, and energy where you feel like you really have to prove you're good enough. And I think this is where unintentionally the brain can overcompensate and we can get in some really funky messaging where we're speaking to things that maybe you wouldn't even speak to naturally. I don't know if you've ever either yourself, I think about this in the dating world, yourself been on a date on either side, right? On the receiving end of this, or maybe you've been the person who's in a date showing up this way, where you have put the person who you're having a date with up on a pedestal, or someone has put you up on a pedestal where it's like you think they're so amazing and perfect as a human, or vice versa, and how funky that can make the energy. And how when someone, if let's say you want to date and you're like putting this person up on a pedestal as like this perfect unicorn of a human, how that can have you say really funny things sometimes, and suddenly you can find yourself saying things you're like, who is this person? This isn't me. It's almost like someone came and invaded my body and is saying all of these things I would never talk about, or is talking about books you've never read before, or is talking about hobbies you don't even have. And we can see, or you've been on the receiving end of that, where you're like, what is going on right now with this? Like, this feels not like the person I first had a date with, or the person I don't know, messaged on Tinder. We can see how that happens in the dating world. The same thing happens in business. Business is pretty similar to dating in many ways. When you unintentionally put someone up on a pedestal that you want to work with, and let's say you are marketing to them, we can see how this really affects the language you use. We talked about so much of this in Words That Sell in our masterclass last week. We can see how this affects literally the type of content you're going to speak to, how you might own your work, how you might own your background, how you might speak to your results or not speak to them because of this. Very, very similar to dating there. So we can see how that can be very sabotaging from an energetic level, but also, again, from a very strategic place, because you're going to end up bringing in things that aren't congruent to who you really are and the type of work you do or the way you show up with clients. Similar to when you're dating, it might not be that, it might be the way you show up isn't that is wrong or bad, but if that's very incongruent from who you are and how you would actually be in a relationship, that's really not going to serve taking that date to the next level. The same way it's not going to necessarily serve you in business. Hopefully this is making sense here. The third, I'm just seeing, okay. The third way I really see that this can affect your mindset and strategy, and just seeing how when you are putting someone on a pedestal, and before we go to that, just kind of what we were talking about here, this is if you're marketing to the ideal client that you've put up onto a pedestal. But let's just say what is happening is you've decided not to as a result of this. We can still see how this affects your messaging, your marketing, your sales, because what happens then is you speak to someone very different who isn't, again, aligned for your work. And it's sort of like if you also, let's use the dating example. If you're also in the dating world deciding that I'm not good enough for the person I really like, I'm not good enough for the person I want to have a relationship with, so I'm going to just go on dates with people who really aren't a fit for me, but I think that that's like kind of all I'm good enough for, all I deserve. You can imagine then how in that situation as well, you're going to show up differently on a date. You're going to say very different things. You're going to behave very differently. And that behavior is going to affect who you attract, who you don't attract, what kind of relationship you have. Most likely, you're probably going to put up a big wall and end up pushing people away or end up in relationships that feel kind of funky. Same is true here in business. We really want to look for who's actually in alignment and who's a fit for you. And when you're pedestaling and either thinking someone is too good and not like kind of putting them up on a pedestal in your marketing, or deciding because of that you shouldn't market to that person. Either way, we have an incongruence to your offer, to your work, to who you are, to who you can best serve. And when we're out of congruence, that makes it really, really tricky in the sales process, because then when someone comes in contact with you or comes in contact with your offer, who you say you are, what you're putting out, who you say you're for, what you're putting in your content, what you're putting in your messaging, the words you use to sell, the energy behind your words, they're not going to match up to who you are on a sales conversation or who you are, let's say, inside of a course. So I hope that piece there makes sense in terms of where we have that incongruence when this is happening, and how important it is to be in congruence in every aspect of your business. The other piece here that I think is from a more of a mindset level in terms of how this can really sabotage your business. So we've been talking about this a little bit more through the strategy lens in terms of how this can affect. And I promise I'm going to give you some insight into how you can shift this around. But when you are pedestaling a client in terms of the mindset perspective, I think what really happens here is it starts to sever your trust with yourself and really starts to reinforce the very story that had you put someone on a pedestal in the first place. So if we think about why you might put someone on a pedestal, why you might put a type of client on a pedestal, usually that is because there is a narrative you're telling yourself that you're not good enough, you don't know enough, you're not far enough along, you don't make enough. There's usually some sort of enoughness piece there. Same thing in dating, right? If we're putting someone on a pedestal, and again, we're talking about people who are the right fit in dating and people who are the right fit for your offer. So if we kind of zoomed out and it wasn't you in your own mind telling yourself these stories, you would be able to see that there actually is a fit there, that you are more than good enough, you have more than enough experience, right? That none of those stories you're telling yourself are actually a reason why someone is or isn't going to buy. But when we're coming from this place, we can see this is very much a mindset and a limiting set of stories that are causing you to put someone up on a pedestal, causing you to put a certain type of client up on a pedestal, as opposed to seeing eye to eye. And when you do this, and then we're seeing how what we just spoke about, how that can affect the way you're showing up, the proving energy that can get put into the conversations, or the way you're messaging, the way this can literally affect all of your strategy. When we have that incongruence, what's happening there is you're probably going to have a harder time booking in clients who are a fit. It's probably going to make it more challenging to book clients. I know I supported with one client with this, gosh, it was years ago. And I remember this was such a light bulb that went off for her. And again, she'd been doing all the things right, but she was not able to book clients. She was having such a hard time. And as soon as we took people off the pedestal and she started marketing to who her people really were, that were a right fit for her offer, she started booking clients so easily. And so we can see here, when we're kind of having that incongruence, how challenging it can be to book clients. And what happens then is this starts to then reinforce the story that you're telling yourself. If you're going out there saying, the people who are a right fit for my offer, they're up on a pedestal, they're too successful, make too much money, they're going to think I don't have enough testimonials or enough degrees, whatever that is, fill in the blank. And so you're marketing to someone else. And then there's that incongruence. And because of that, people aren't hiring you. What your brain has seen is that end result of, and I'm not booking clients and I'm not making money. And it's very easy then to reinforce the story of, well, see, I'm not good enough. I don't make enough money. I'm not successful enough yet. I better get another degree. I better take another course. I better make more money before I can really go after market to, sell to the people who are right for my offer. Because look, even here, someone who's not on a pedestal that I'm going after isn't buying from me. And again, I want to be really mindful here. We're not actually saying people on a pedestal are better and people who you've taken off the pedestal are not. All humans are inherently worthy. These are just funny things our brains do when there is often something that we find as a match and it feels outside of our comfort zone in some way. I think this is just a really fascinating thing the brain can do. So I just want to be very mindful there that that is not what we are speaking about at all here. But can you see how then this creates a whole new form of sabotage in the business? Because first we have this affecting the business on a strategy, on a clarity and a strategy level, and in terms of the energy and the way you're showing up. And then that's going to affect your result, which really reinforces this story and this mindset you're telling yourself, which can really then affect your self-trust and the enoughness you feel in your business, which kind of keeps this perpetual cycle going. Just checking here. Okay, I don't have any questions. Just want to make sure. So those are the three ways I really see this affecting how this can really sabotage your business, and really unintentionally. I say this because I want to shift to how you can make this shift in your business from a mindset and strategic place. But I think if we can't see first how this is negatively impacting business, because the brain is choosing to put someone up on a pedestal and maybe either market to them in a way that feels incongruent or choose a different target audience and market to them. If we're not able to see this as coming from a fear, from a place of maybe not feeling good enough in some way, and we're not able to see how this is negatively impacting the business because of the discomfort, it often asks us to shift through, to work through, to be able to make a shift, to speak to the person who is right for your offer, who you have put up on a pedestal, and to be able to kind of take them off the pedestal there. Because of that requirement, it's really easy to just have this go on deaf ears and not to want to make that shift. So I want us first to be able to see like, oh, isn't that interesting? If I'm doing this, maybe this is a way this is affecting my business. That doesn't mean my strategy is wrong or my business is wrong or I'm wrong or I'm not good enough the way I may be telling myself. What this probably means is that I've just been talking to the wrong person and I haven't felt okay or good enough to talk to the right person or to speak to in my messaging, how my work can support this person in a way that's really congruent to my offer, to the way I show them my work. All right. No comments. Okay. Just making sure y'all are so quiet. So I think the first thing here, if you're hearing this and you're like, oh, well, yes, I think I am really putting the type of client I want to work with up on a pedestal, and I'm seeing that disconnect. I think I would be having this conversation if I didn't think this was very normal. Again, this was something I saw in the acting world so much as well. I saw this all the time on set and all the time when we were auditioning as well, particularly for larger roles or if there was going to be a big name actor in there. So many people would spin themselves out because they would think they're not good enough for the role they're playing because there's a big name actor or because they're going to be working across from a big name actor. They would put that big name actor up on a pedestal and decide that person is better than me. Therefore, I can't audition for this role, or would get really, really funky in the audition room or book a job. I worked on a couple of jobs with some big name actors and get really, really weird on set, which, I mean, we just spoke to all the ways that can be sabotaging. But I wouldn't be bringing this up if I didn't see how normal this was. I saw that then. I see this in business with clients all the time. I think the first thing we want to play with if we're going to shift this from a mindset perspective, I think the acting example is actually really great here, is starting to see business in terms of roles and instead of in terms of who's better than someone else. I'm going to keep saying this, but No one is better than you. Everyone is great, period. Everyone is worthy, period. Someone who might have more success in a certain area simply has more success in a certain area simply because that's the role they've chosen and that's where they're at in their journey. Someone who has more money, for example, simply means they have more money. That doesn't mean that they are better than you. And when we think about business and when we think about making offers, what I find can be really helpful here is to go back to what I was explaining to you with that acting example and think similarly to if you were auditioning for a role to play opposite Meryl Streep. Meryl Streep is brilliant, but instead of putting her on a pedestal and thinking super weird and thinking like, oh my God, she's a better human than me, there's no way I could ever be as great as her, therefore I got to be like, I suck, or I've got to like either not audition for this or be super weird or over prepare or try to prove myself or start talking about weird stuff because I'm spitting out. Instead of coming from that perspective, seeing Meryl Streep is great. And she's got this role to play. That's why she's playing the role in this film or in this TV show, right? Because she is great. She is talented. She is at a certain level with her career, with her craft, with her expertise, that she is playing this role. And this scene requires two people in the scene to make this scene tell a story, for this scene to be successful. That other role needs to be played by someone else. No matter how amazing Meryl Streep is, she cannot play two roles at one time. Maybe she can play two roles in a single movie. I will give her that. She could probably morph herself. I'm sure she's even done that before. But in one scene, unless we're doing some crazy CGI where we're like masking her up and putting her in another role, but just like without crazy special effects, right? No matter how brilliant she is, unless it's a monologue, if this is a scene that requires two people, we need to have two people there. Someone else has to fill the other role. And whoever fills that role, we have to see them as a whole, complete, successful, good enough, worthy person for that role. Right. And so that doesn't discount Meryl Streep's ability, but that also doesn't discount the other role and the other role's function in the scene and the other person in that scene. And what happens in business is we see those two roles and we see the Meryl Streep that we're selling to, put her up on a pedestal, and then discount the other role and think the role where you are selling an offer. It's almost like either that needs to be filled by another Meryl Streep, which maybe wouldn't make sense for the role or wouldn't be possible, or we spin ourselves out. And what I want you to think of this is just start seeing as the Meryl Streeps of the world, the people you're selling to who you put up onto a pedestal, they get to stay amazing. The goal here is not how do we discount them and knock them off the pedestal and knock them down. Like now you put yourself on a pedestal and decide you're better than. Instead, we look at how can we see they're in their role and we get to honor that. We get to respect that. Right? We get to respect where they are at in their role. And there is another role there that needs to be fulfilled that this other person can't possibly play both roles, right? That is the role of what you are selling. That is the role of the problem you solve or the offer you solve. Can you see that as a separate role? And you get to fill that role with all of your enoughness and good enoughness. And someone else's ability, someone else's success, someone else's place in their journey does not take away from you playing that role. If anything, it adds to and it gives a requirement for that role to exist in the first place. I hope that analogy makes sense because in my brain, it makes a lot of sense. And I really want to invite you to think about this that way, because I think, again, it can be so easy to wonder, well, why would Meryl Streep be in a scene with an actor like me? And what we have to remember, and I'm saying that's the same as why would someone like that hire someone like me, whatever that is you're selling. And instead, what I want you to think about is Meryl Streep needs to finish this scene. For her to finish this scene and for her to win her Oscar, someone has to play that other role. Someone has to play that role, and someone has to be able to play that role who's the right fit for that role, really great for that role, and who's not going to come in and be a freaking weirdo and make her feel weird and get all funny and fawn all over her or pull back or shrink back or overact or basically mess up the role because they're playing opposite Meryl Streep. Meryl Streep needs someone to fulfill that role and to do it the way it's meant to be played so that she can go and win her Oscar, right? And so for you in business, if your best fit, ideal client avatar is someone who is a Meryl Streep, right? Who you put up on a pedestal. If instead you can see they're playing their role and they're playing their role excellently, but they still need someone in that other role so that they can go get their Oscar, so to say, metaphorically. Your job then, from a mindset perspective, is to see how can you show up in that role fully and really own that, really embody that, really play the role the way it's meant to be played, and not try to play that role the way Meryl Streep would play it, or play that role doing all the things Meryl Streep would do. She's got her own role to play. You've got your role to play. So hopefully from a mindset perspective, that can help us create that shift there. Because I think ideally what we want to look at in business, and this is kind of what we were talking about earlier in terms of why when the brain wants to pedestal people and how this can really sabotage your business and strategy, what happens here is this also strategically doesn't make sense when we're in that pedestaling place, because it causes us to look at business through a lens that really has nothing to do with what business is about. It has us look at business and, again, create ideal clients and messaging and marketing and offers through the lens of fear, through the lens of insecurity, through the lens of mindset, instead of coming from a really neutral place that looks at what does this business offer? What problem does this business solve? What problem does this offer solve? Who can we best solve this problem for? Who is the best fit for this offer that we can best support, that we can best serve, that we can best help, that is going to get the best result? Right? Who is, like, that's really what business is about. We probably talk about this so many different ways. It's about what is the problem you solve, or what's the desire you give people, and what is the result or outcome from the other on the other side. And then who's the person who has that problem? That's the person who's your ideal client, not who's the person who's more successful, less successful. And so when we can start to see that, and when you can start to come at what is your role then in business, what is your business as one role? What scene are we playing? Who is the person we need to then sell to? You strategically can show up in business in a way that really supports connecting with the type of person who's going to best buy from you, right? Or if we're using the Meryl Streep example again here, and we're using the movie scene example through kind of this idea here, when we're looking at that role opposite Meryl Streep, we're not looking for who is another Meryl Streep. We're looking for, let's say you're playing a shop clerk. We're looking for who's the person who can solve the problem of show up and be the shop clerk that sells to Meryl Streep's character. And maybe, I don't know, screams at her and tells her she's not allowed to buy something. I'm making up a scene here, right? That's the problem that has to be solved. And we need to find someone who's really great at solving that problem and helping Meryl Streep get the result of she then has a partner to have that scene with. The same is true for you in business. If your business solves that role, we want to look at how can you really get clear on what's the role yourself, what's the problem you're solving, what's the result you deliver, who is the best fit for that. If that's a Meryl Streep, then that's who you want to sell to. Just like in this scene, if you're playing that role and Meryl Streep's acting opposite you, what you don't want to suddenly do is decide Meryl Streep is too good of an actress for me, so let me pretend she's actually my mom and act like I was acting with my mom, right? Like that's going to have a really weird, incongruent scene. Same for you strategically in business. So I really want to invite you to see how when we make this shift and we start to think about this simply as, what is your role in your business? What is your business's role? And what is someone else? And what is that role for someone else you're selling to? And start to think through that lens. You can make that mindset shift, but then you can also start to think about things in your business through the lens that your business actually needs you to think through strategically, as opposed to through the lens your brain wants you to think through because it's having an emotional fear response or because it's feeling not good enough. I really hope that like kind of outline there makes sense. And then you can actually look at things like, okay, if this is my role, then who is the person this is best for? And you also can then look at, and what is their role in this relationship? So that you can also, I think this is a way to take someone off the pedestal without knocking someone down, because we're not trying to knock people down. That is not the goal in business. That's not the goal ever in life, right? We're looking at more, how can we see eye to eye? How can you solve someone's problem and help them understand you're the best solution to solve their problem, that they should pay you, that they should hire you. And so when you can start to see the Meryl Streep, so to say, metaphorically in your business, the type of ideal client you're putting up on the pedestal, when you can start to see and ask yourself, what is their role? Okay, their role is they are a multi-seven-figure business owner. We'll just use that as an example. That is their role in their life. You can simply see that as, okay, just like Meryl Streep, what is her role in this movie? Her role is to play the, I don't know, the rich lady who yells at the shop person, right? We just can see like those are simply their roles. And then what is your role? My role is, for this multi-seven-figure business owner, my role is to support the back end of their business. My role in the movie is to be the crazy shop, or to be the nice shop person that Meryl Streep yells at, right? We can see that simply everyone is having roles here. And all of those roles are equally important to make the scene work, or to make the business work, to make your business work, but also to make the person who's hiring you, to make their business work, or whatever it is. Maybe you're helping them with their family, maybe you're helping them with their health, to make whatever it is their work. We need both of those roles. And when you can start to see that, you can simply see it's not about where someone is better or where someone is, in air quotes, worse, or putting someone on a pedestal or knocking them off. It's simply seeing what are each person's role and what are the roles in this relationship, and how can I simply see my role here is to support a person in this way. Their role here in this relationship is X, Y, and Z, like to show up in this way. And all of those other pieces that make them the successful human they are, those are beautiful qualities and assets that you can respect. And that, I think respect is very different than putting someone on a pedestal, but they really don't have anything to do with your offer or with what you're selling someone. And so I think when you can approach it from that lens, you can start to cut out all the crap the brain wants to bring in that has you put someone on a pedestal, and all the crap that can get dragged then into the marketing and the strategy and the way you're showing up. And instead, again, to see what is their role in this relationship? What is my role? How can we really show up for that? And then anything else, again, how can I just respect that? But see, that doesn't even really have anything to do with what's going on in this business relationship. This is also then how you can get back to being a really great business owner who's really showing up neutrally and really clear on, this is my offer. This is the problem I solve. This is who this is great for. And you can show up then for someone, because here's something I do know to be true. Someone who you might be putting on a pedestal because they're more successful in a certain area of their life. Let's say you're a fitness or health coach, and you're working with someone who's, we'll just keep going with the acting world. Like they're super successful in the acting world, and they want to hire you, or like they're a great fit for your fitness coaching. And if you can see that that's their role, they are excellent at their role as an actor and actress, but that is their role. And you can still also be excellent at your role as a fitness coach. And you can see there is room for both to be true. And we need both to be true for this relationship to work, right? Then suddenly you can be the person who can be that match and see that you can really support your celebrity person, let's say, with their health and fitness. But here's the other piece I think is really important to understand here. Oftentimes, when you can take someone off a pedestal like this, you can also see someone who might be at that level of success in their career is often also the very same person who needs a lot of support, not because they're deficient or incapable, but generally speaking, someone at that level of success, whether that's in the entertainment world, the acting, the film world, whether that is in our online business space, whether that's in the corporate space, whatever space you might be in, that usually means they're juggling a whole lot of things in their life. And that also generally means they've really gotten good at their zone of genius, and they probably want support with all of these other things that are in their zone of excellence that are outside of their zone of genius that they still have to juggle. So while someone might be excellent at acting, film, nutrition, working out, that might not be their zone of genius, but that is probably suddenly something that is, I mean, we could argue that's important for everyone, but probably something that is important to them to the degree that they want to invest in support, because it directly impacts their success, the way their energy, the way they're showing up, and being able to show up on set. Just like if you work with someone, let's say in the corporate space, who is at a certain level in their career, so they are successful, they might be very busy, let's say, running and doing their job. Because of that, maybe they don't have as much time, but they still have a need for nutrition and health support, let's say that's who you're working with, you can see how there in many ways might be even more of a need for your service because of the very fact that they are at a different level of success because they're further along in their career, whatever that is you're kind of putting up on a pedestal, and seeing the very reason you're telling yourself this person can't be who you work with in this moment might be the very reason they actually need your support for your zone of genius. Because again, remember, you have a different role than they do. And so I think really seeing how, yes, those different roles are important, but also because of those different roles and because of the very reasons you might be pedestaling ideal clients, those might also be the same reasons someone actually really needs someone like you, specifically because they are probably in a place where those things are important. Those things support their success. They maybe have less time, but more resources to invest and support in different ways. So I hope that nuance makes sense there as well, because I think it's really fascinating sometimes how the limiting stories our brain wants to kick up, again, because of fear, not because this strategically is true or because this is actually true in your business in any way, shape, or form. Again, this is very, very different than just like plucking someone out and saying like, well, it would be really fun to work with that person because I think they have money and would pay for something. That's not what we're talking about here at all. But when this is actually someone who would be a really great fit for your offer, I think it's really fascinating to see how the limiting stories that your brain wants to be really cute and adorable and kick up, how often those are also the very reason someone actually would hire you, why you are actually a better fit. And so I think that's always fun to play with. This is a bit of a side tangent, but I share Carolyn Elliott's work quite a bit in the group. And she has an exercise called the fear inventory. It's an exercise I do often, almost daily with my mindset work. It's one I give to clients quite a bit. And the fear inventory, essentially you write out what you desire, what you want in your business, in your life, and then you proceed to list out about 20 fears or resentments that come up around it. So you can kind of see what your brain is handing you, because so often we don't shine a light on our fears or on our insecurities. And then I think it's powerful to either release it or burn a piece of paper up. And I often do an exercise afterwards to reframe or to shift or adjust or to write what I know to be true after those fears or resentments. But and I just give you some context here so you understand where I'm going with this. One of the tools Carolyn Elliott gives with the fear inventory is something called a reversal, where you write out the fear, but you write out the inverse or the reverse of that fear. So for example, if I said, so let's say I deeply desire to work with, and let's say you really want to work with corporate executives for your health coaching. I'm totally making this up here, but I deeply desire to work with corporate executives because I know they're a great match because they're so busy and they really don't have time to focus on their health. And I know that like the way I work, I used to be in corporate, like I know exactly what their stressors are. And like those are my people. I know them, I get them, and I can really help them. Like they are such a good match for my offer. But I fear that. And then let's say you're writing all the fears. And so let's say your fear was that I fear that I'm not good enough. I fear that they'll laugh at me. The reversal would be, I fear that I am good enough. I fear that they won't laugh at me and that they'll take me seriously. So it's that reversal there. And I think it's sort of what we're talking about here, where in some ways, the very things you fear are often the very reasons someone would hire you. But oftentimes when we're putting someone on a pedestal and the very reasons you're telling yourself you're not good enough and why that needs to be true, what I find really fascinating is so often the brain is being very, very clever and sneaky and doing that as a way to protect you from the inverse, because there's a part of you that's actually scared that, oh, what if I am such a good fit here? What if that means I got to put my money where my mouth is and actually show up and book this client? What if all of these reasons I'm telling myself I can't work with this person are actually the very reason I'm like the best fit? And then this thing is real and I have to deal with all the fears that come up around that. So I hope that little nugget there is clear. I think that's always a great exercise to play with. But particularly here, if you're finding yourself playing this game where you're telling yourself you're not good enough for the type of person who you know is really the person you want to work with, who's a great fit for your offer, I would play with that fear reversal, that inverse there, and see if that feels true for you. It can be really, really interesting. Like, oh, isn't that interesting? Like, look at some of these fears here. I call them positive fears because they sound really positive, right? I fear that someone will think I'm amazing at what I do. I fear that, trying to think like what some might be. Like, so maybe you fear that they like wouldn't think you're good enough, or you don't have enough accolades or enough experience. And I think the inverse could be, I fear that they think I'm so good at what I do. I fear that they want to hire me on the spot and really trust me. Right? Really interesting to notice what comes up with those reversals. I always get dry at the end of these, y'all. All right, let me check my notes and see if I had anything else I wanted to share here. Oh, yes, I did. I was going to share here. So this is the important piece here. So we talked about this from kind of the mindset perspectives in terms of switching that role piece and why this is so important strategically. The other piece I wanted to play here with, from kind of like, if you're like, why would someone like that hire you? And we want to look at shifting that. I think the really great question to play with and to ask yourself here is, why would anyone hire you? Why are you the best solution? What is the problem you solve? What is and it could be the desire you fulfill. It doesn't always have to be a problem, but what is that in your business? And why should anyone hire you? Because that is the piece you want to remind yourself you are the expert at. That is why you are in business. And because I think we start to play with like, why would someone like that hire me? And I think that's where we get into that pedestalling and starting to think, people are like, that's a certain kind of person, as opposed to people are people. Like, y'all, we're all humans selling to other humans. Certain people might just have in certain areas of their life more success, but why would anyone hire you? And not from a place of like, why would someone hire you, but really getting clear and answering that for yourself, because that is going to help you see really what you want to speak to, and to see like, yes, everyone has their different role, but how you answer that question, that is the confidence I want to invite you to tap into. That is the expertise I want you to own. That is your role. When we're going back to that role example, that is your role that I really want to invite you to embody and to reinforce. And then to see, your job is less to think about what type of person is, I mean, yes, you need to know like who your ideal client is, obviously, but in terms of like that kind of person or that kind of person, like someone on a pedestal or someone not on a pedestal. Your job is not to see, to seek out the person who isn't on a pedestal that feels safe for your brain, because then we're selling from a fear-driven place, but instead to see, why would anyone hire you? Like, why do I know like this is the reason someone should hire me or buy my product or buy my service or whatever that might be there? And instead, how can I speak to that and to see, and that's why anyone would hire me. And I am selling to that person who is the right fit for this. And my role in business, or your role in business, is to be really clear on that and to have confidence and own that. And to see, your role in any sales conversation is to trust, this is why anyone would hire me. This is the problem I solve. This is the result I deliver. This is the desire I help fulfill. This is why anyone would want to buy or invest through this. And my job is to have, or your job is to have confidence in that, and to have more confidence than the person you're selling to, and so that they can feel safe speaking to you, so that they can feel safe hiring from you, so that they can feel safe being supported in whatever your solution is. And so I think that just can be a really great place to almost like take this, like what kind of like the pedestal piece out of the equation, and to get out of the trying to make strategic decisions or business decisions from a fear-driven place, and instead getting back to just basics in your business. Sometimes strategy can support mindset as well, right? When we get clear on some of these strategy pieces, that can support the mindset. When you can get clear on what is your role, what are you an expert at, what is the problem you solve better than anyone for your people, why should anyone hire you? When you can get back into that and get back into your role, that then can support you in shifting, right? It's not even then about taking someone off a pedestal. It's just about saying, it's not about pedestal or not pedestal at all. It's simply then coming from the place of like, hey, my role is this. This is what I'm an expert at. This is the problem I solve. I am excellent at that. Are you a match for this? Great. Then I should speak to you. Then I should solve this for you. Then I can help you. Then I can sell to you. No? Great. Then you're an awesome human being. You're not on a pedestal or not on a pedestal. I'm just going to look for the person who's a match for this offer. Okay. I hope that piece can help just give you a little bit of, I think that helps, again, like hook into the strategy side, but the strategy that can then also support the mindset. And just so you can give yourself permission, because I think sometimes I think I'm all my, y'all know, I'm like 90% of the game in business starts in mindset, but I think sometimes we can almost like back our way into shifting mindset by looking at the strategy side first, because strategy can be such a neutral construct in business. And when we can look at your business neutrally, it's kind of hard to argue with that. Whereas when we're in mindset, the brain just wants to argue and fight for its limitations all day long. And your brain and your fear will always win if you are arguing with it. This is my coach who said this: don't argue with crazy. If you've ever seen people who are like mentally having a challenge and are not in a mean way, but who are actually having a psychotic break. And if you were to try to argue with someone there, you can't argue. Like they're just going to fight for their crazy. It's kind of the same thing with our own mindset. It's really hard to fight with your own crazy because your crazy is always going to win. It thinks it's right. And it's been usually spewing that crazy for longer than whatever the new mindset shift you're trying to make is. So that's why sometimes if you can come to business from a really neutral stance and answer some of these questions, that neutrality gives you, it's almost like concrete evidence that you can't fight with as much. And then that can help shift the mindset, because it's hard to fight with crazy, but it's a lot easier to take in something that neutrally, strategically, like practically just simply makes sense for you. And then that can just be easier to take in, to digest for your system to then shift the mindset piece. So I think that can just be a different way to kind of attack this if you're having a hard time shifting it from the mindset angle. Okay, I'm just seeing here. There's anything else I wanted to share about this. The last piece I will just close on. Just where is my window here for Facebook? No questions. Last thing I just want to close on, it really here is the reminder that if you find yourself playing this game of what we're really talking about here is a symptom of how not feeling good enough in some way can show up in your business, and how this can manifest its way into putting potential ideal clients up on a pedestal, and then everything we talked about in terms of how that can really sabotage your business. If you're playing this game, I want to just close with that reminder that everyone here is enough. You would not be choosing to be a business owner and creating offers if there wasn't some part of you that believed you were good enough and believed that you could help someone. And I think reminding yourself that being good enough and being good enough to make an offer and being good enough to sell something and being good enough and worthy to receive money for something does not mean that you have to be perfect at everything. And that does not mean that you have to, on every single element of your life, have everything perfectly put together and be further along in your journey than everyone. All it means is that the thing that you're selling, the offer you're making, it simply needs to be enough to support someone, again, to solve the problem or the challenge they're having, or to get their desire met. And in that one area, that one role you're choosing, that's the place probably it's going to be supportive if you're further along in some way with what you're specifically helping someone with, but not in all the ways. And I think just seeing in all of us in this human life experience, we're all in this dance and we're all in different places in this journey in so many different ways. And to not make that wrong. And I think the more we can see that and normalize that, the more we can take people off pedestals and see we all have challenges and struggles. We all have successes and wins. That is just normal. That is just human. It's not like some people are up here on a pedestal and some people are not. And the more you can play that game and start to see business through this lens, see yourself through this lens, so you can give yourself more grace, but also then start to see marketing and sales through this lens of how can I then see that I'm more than enough here to sell this offer, but also start to see people eye to eye and see I'm simply a human selling to other humans. I think the more ease you're going to have overall. I think anytime we start to think or to forget we're selling to humans, or to forget that we get to be human. I think anytime that happens, that's when business can become really sticky really fast. And I think that's when the sabotage can come in, or the challenges making money, sustaining money can come in. So I think just overall, because this comes from this idea of kind of putting people up on a pedestal and kind of that like funky energy, I think just overall, the more we can all just get back to, I get to be a human having a human experience. And so do the people I'm selling to. They get to be humans having human experiences as well. Everyone is inherently worthy. Everyone is great at different things. Everyone's at different places in the journey. But the more you can come from that place, again, the more you can start to see eye to eye. And it's going to be a lot easier to market and sell, but to also work through some of the mindset gunk that can kind of keep you feeling like you're in that stuck zone. So I hope that is helpful for you. If you have any questions around this, again, on the replay, feel free to pop them below. And for any of you who want support with some of the mindset shifts we were talking about today, so that you are kind of getting into that zone where you can be neutral showing up in your business, so that you can really run your business strategically, as opposed to, I think what happens so often is we run business from a place of fear, or from a place where we're hoping our business will solve the discomfort we feel, or solve the mindset challenges we feel. If you would really love to be able to shift some of that mindset stuff, have support around it to process it, but also be able to approach business from a neutral and strategic place, so that you can have that clarity on the strategy that makes sense for your business, to be able to take action from that place. That's literally what I support my clients with. We are all about taking clarity, mindset, strategy, and action to help them book in more clients, to help them set up their business in a way that serves them, that can be really sustainable, that allows them to make money and income on repeat with a lot more ease. That's what I love to do. I would love to connect with you. I will drop a link below. You can book a call and we can chat about my next opening as they come up. All right. I love you all. I'll be back next week with another live stream topic for you. I think we've got another sales topic next week, if I'm remembering correctly, that I'm excited to chat about, that actually came up, I think, twice today. So I think it's a really relevant topic. So I'll be back next week. We'll chat about that. And I love you all. Everyone, just a reminder too of what we talked about at the beginning of the call. Give yourself grace for the duality that is life always, but particularly I think right now, as we are collectively, I think, processing through a lot of heaviness, and just a lot of love to everyone in this group, and hope everyone is taking care of themselves. Bye, y'all. Right now, I always do this when I try to go live on Zoom. I have to find the right place to end this. So y'all just get to hang with me for another second while I do that. But I love y'all a lot. I will see you next week. I think I'm still live. Let's see, I'll just close all the windows. Nope, I'm still alive. How do I do this? Let's see. I think it's this window. Y'all should not hire me ever for setting up technology. Let's see, did that do it?